What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Ango Show. We are live. It is October 21st, 2021. Hopefully, you guys... October 21st, 2024. Did I say 2021? What the hell's wrong with me? We are live. Hopefully, you guys all had a great weekend. I know I did. Guys, I wanted to talk about a variety of topics. I had to push back the stream an hour because I actually had some business calls to make earlier today. As we head into the holiday season, we got some new sponsors and some new stuff happening. Plus, I got TNA Bound for Glory this week, so just finalizing some details there. But obviously, I'm not talking about anything today that's related to a show. I'm not reviewing MLPW. I'm not reviewing SmackDown. I'm not reviewing Raw. Instead, I want to have an open dialogue, and I think that is the most important thing that we can do at this time, because this past weekend, there was an interesting thing that went down between Tony Khan and JD from New York on Twitter. I want to chime in on this. It kind of sparked a little bit of thoughts in my head. Plus, we know that WWE NXT is going head-to-head with AEW on November 6th. I want to talk a little bit about that. I will share some general thoughts about Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. So hopefully you guys are all ready to sit back, relax, and enjoy. I'm still dealing with that annoying ass cough, unfortunately. But hopefully you guys are all having a great day. Hopefully you guys all had a great weekend. Shout out to Cam. I see you in the chat, bro. Trey, I see you in the chat as well. Yeah, man, where do we begin? I don't know if this is going to be a very, very long stream, but I know I have a lot to talk about, and I wanted to talk about it. So that's exactly what we're going to do, is we will, in fact, talk about it. Let's just pull it up, because I find this to be a very interesting thing. So let's do it. We're going to pull this up, and we are going to discuss, because that's what I want to do. I want to discuss this. So let's start with the JD and Tony Khan thing. Tony Khan responds to JD. So basically, JD put out a tweet basically saying that Orange Cassidy has been overexposed. Daniel Garcia, nobody believes in him. Private party. Tony Khan has booked them into obscurity for 4 years. It all reeks of desperation instead of planned long-term investment. I have a lot to say about this, because I actually do fully agree with JD here. Now, for those who don't know, I don't typically agree with JD on everything in professional wrestling, especially since the emergence of AEW. There's been a lot of things that me and JD don't always necessarily see eye to eye on, whether it's AEW or WWE, the way they do things, whatever it may be. However, there is a lot of truth to what JD said here. Now, that's this specific tweet that I'm referencing. Now, I don't know who this is. It looks like it's a bot, because, all these numbers and whatever. But nonetheless, JD gets a response. We do believe in Daniel Garcia. JD responds and says, no, you don't, LOL. You only believe because you're stupid to what is actually going on. Now, me personally, I think this is the part where I don't necessarily agree with JD's tweet. And it's nothing against JD or whatever it may be. But, I'm one of those people. I don't believe in attacking others for their opinions. So I understand, this is not a tweet that I probably would have posted, right? JD's always been good to me, but even though we don't always agree, sometimes we do, whatever it may be. This is just one of those tweets where I don't necessarily agree with, because this is exactly how the AEW sickos, if that's what you want to call them, that's typically how they respond to all of us content creators. And I'm not the only content creator saying this. There's a lot of content creators who have published content. And, if we praise AEW, it is what it is. But if we don't praise AEW, we are literally met with something like that. We're fucking stupid. We're dumb. We're on the payroll, etc., etc., etc. Now, this is a random thread, and Tony Khan decides to respond to it. So Tony Khan's tweet gets 157,000 views, and he says, why would you tell a fan that they are stupid for just expressing their opinion? Everyone is allowed to have beliefs and opinions. It doesn't make them stupid. Okay. JD then responds saying, because I can, Tony, it's all subjective. Tony says, yes, exactly. It's all subjective. That's why I've never called you stupid once in 5 years, despite the fact that I often disagree with your opinions. JD then goes into response, and it doesn't look like Tony Khan responded to this one. But JD says, well, you couldn't call me stupid for the first 3 years because I was on your payroll, supposedly. In the last 2 years as a fan, I disagree with you creatively. That's coming from someone who desperately stood for what you served us. Now I feel no emotion. Fix it. So, This has obviously become a big talking point in the IWC. And I know some people, they're simply not going to agree with JD. Not everybody's going to like JD. Not everybody's going to agree with JD. That's just kind of how it is. And that's completely fine. However, there is something that needs to be said here about Tony Khan responding to JD, in the sense that this is a situation where Tony Khan, in my personal opinion, should not be on social media worried about what a podcaster thinks. I think what Tony Khan needs to do is figure out his show, because there is a lot of validity from the tweet that JD posted. Orange Cassidy, Daniel Garcia, these are guys that I absolutely enjoy watching, okay? Like, that's the truth. I absolutely enjoy watching them, okay? I enjoy watching Private Party. But we're not going to sit here and act like Tony Khan has built this up like with a long-term plan. And if we're going to go off of reports, there was a report that Jon Moxley wasn't even originally planned to win the world championship from Bryan Danielson. The original plan was actually Darby Allin, and Tony Khan and the company changed their mind last minute. Right? They changed their mind last minute for Jon Moxley to win, so they could do this huge angle in hopes of getting some momentum towards the company. The truth is, AEW, in the first 3 years of business, it seemed like a lot of things were long-term planned. It seemed like a lot of things initially were like actually well thought out. We have gotten to a point in the company where it's obviously not like that. It's very evident that it's not like that. It is very evident if you watch AEW in today's day and age, things are happening without seamless integration. And so, Private Party, for example, when Private Party stole a victory from the Young Bucks a long, long time ago, that was shock factor. That was, hey, like, these guys are great. And then you had them do the whole thing with the Hardys, and then you just see them on TV. Sometimes you don't see them on TV. And it goes back to what I always say about AEW. It's AEW is relatively inconsistent on how they utilize talent. There is no explanation as to why things are being done. I have never once said that AEW tells no stories. I have been the one to say that AEW has fallen apart when it comes to telling stories. And that is very true. There is nothing that JD said in that original tweet that makes me think JD was lying. And the reality is, Tony Khan is in a weird predicament, because Tony Khan has basically birthed this entire tribalism that exists between this AEW fan base and this WWE fan base. And the reality is, if it wasn't for Tony Khan, it wouldn't be like this. And I know this from my own experience. I literally was covering AEW for a very long time. And I would say almost 90% of the coverage in the initial stages was relatively positive. There was still moments, if you go back and watch the content from 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, there were times where I was still relatively critical of how they do things. But most of the experience that I had covering AEW was overwhelmingly positive. Now, if I say anything anti-AEW, I literally get shit on for it. Now, I want to go and show you guys a tweet, because this is a big one. There's another tweet that I want to show you guys. And this was the real reason why I want to even talk about this entire topic. So we're going to click on this. It's a 2-minute clip. And let's take a listen. Brian Alvarez.
And I believe the problem is that Tony Khan remembers every last single thing that ever happened in AEW. And his presumption is, you do too. Therefore, he doesn't bother explaining anything.
There's never recaps. There's been more in the past month or so. That's true, but they need more still.
We need more recaps. We need more announcers telling us what's going on and why.
Yep.
We need all of that. I don't want to hear that makes it more WWE. It makes it more pro wrestling promotion.
Yes.
Okay?
Promotion. It's in the word, in the name.
The reason WWE does most of what they do, not all of it, like not being able to say hospital is just Vince McMahon madness, but the reason that they promote matches in advance and they recap things that happen and they make past events seem important to make future events seem important, that's not a WWE thing. This is the promotion of professional wrestling thing. They do it in New Japan. They do it in TNA. They do it in every wrestling company in the world. It is a pro wrestling thing to do recaps and to hammer things home into you. There's a reason it's called a promotion, and the guy running it is called a promoter. Promote your shit. AEW doesn't do that. They presume you know. We shot this angle, you're going to remember. We shot this angle with Stokely on Rampage. You're going to remember. Even though nobody watches Rampage, they just need to say more and hammer more of it home so that people remember. You can't literally run a promotion just for the AEW, what do they call them, sickos?
Yeah.
If you run a promotion just for the sickos, you're going to do 400,000 viewers eventually. Like, you got to run a promotion for everybody. The sickos can be the ones that buy tickets first and spend the most money on the merchandise and, like, are the complete diehards. But, like, you got to promote for everybody. Then you'll have a lot of viewers.
So I put out this tweet. I said, when Alvarez says this, it's okay. But when Ango says this for years, I'm just a mark paid off by the WWE. Make it make sense. And that's why I want to talk about this. Because I feel like we have gotten to a point where AEW is not back to be, they're just not focused anymore. They're just not focused anymore. I feel like we have gotten to a point in this company with AEW where the priorities are just simply not there. Booking is it's not very cohesive. Booking is not very organized, and it feels like AEW has 20 different people booking the show. It feels like AEW has too many hands in the kitchen, and Tony Khan doesn't know how to make them all flow together consistently, naturally. By the way, this was a very big criticism that we used to have. This was a very big criticism that I used to have during the Black and Gold 2020-2021 NXT days. This is how I felt about WWE when Vince McMahon was in charge. But for some reason with AEW, we have gotten to a point where Tony Khan is concerned about what JD from New York is saying. JD has a lot of validity in his actual tweet. You can't all of a sudden just put people on TV for a couple of weeks and expect everybody to fucking care. That's not how it works anymore, man. And then when you go look at the Brian Alvarez post and you see Brian Alvarez talking about it, the AEW audience doesn't really turn on Brian Alvarez because they like Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer. But everybody comes to this conclusion that, like, we just talk poorly about AEW for the simple fact that it's like views or something. That is not true, man. In fact, viewership in general, for me to talk about AEW versus where it was years ago, it is significantly less. And yet I still talk about AEW. That's because I genuinely want AEW to improve. And then I want to show you guys another tweet because I thought this was very interesting. It was just something that I feel like we have said time and time again. There was two tweets. Conman167 says, in response to JD, as to why he doesn't watch AEW, says, for me, it's a mix of the online toxicity from fans and the lack of free time to watch something I'm not as invested in. It used to be worth dropping everything to stream every one of their shows. Now I could honestly care less. Their pay-per-views are still top tier and I love watching them. Wheezy Blonde says, time. If I'm investing nearly 6 hours into watching a program weekly, not including pay-per-views, I need to be invested. Sundays are my one off day to myself, and a pay-per-view with 10 plus matches is longer than I can stand at this stage of my life. I'm just not emotionally attached to enough of what is happening. Why are people not invested in AEW, guys? Why is Tony Khan on Twitter worried about a whole bunch of shit that he shouldn't be worried about? Figure it out, man.
Rick Corrales super chatted $5. Making Chris Statlander face was turned face without explanation.
Rick dropping a $5 super chat. Making Chris Statlander face was turned face without explanation. You know what's funny, Rick, is they actually aired a little vignette with Chris Statlander on, I think it was on Rampage. Just a quick little clip to explain it. Because they heard the negative feedback. But this is a perfect example. They don't have anything planned long term. How is it? And I'm not trying to compare AEW to WWE all the time, because obviously they do have to be a little bit different. But how is it that we watch WWE and you could kind of tell where the storyline is headed? Yeah, you might get swerved at a couple points. Sometimes it may even be a little predictable. But how is it that you typically have an idea of where the storyline is headed, and we do not have that within AEW at all? We don't. We have gotten to a point with AEW programming where it is very inconsistent. It is very inconsistent. That is where we are currently at with AEW. Guys, these criticisms that I have are not things that I'm coming up with today, October 21st, 2024. These are the same criticisms that I had about AEW on October 21st, 2022. The thing is, back then, it wasn't as much of a problem as it is today, because now it has completely taken over the product. Completely taken over the product. But I just read a couple examples of people saying they're just not invested. Come on. We have gotten to a point. You guys can like JD, not like JD. That's up to you. I'm not here to get you guys. I'm not here to change how you guys feel about anybody. But there was a lot of truth to JD's tweet. You're randomly shuffling talent on TV to make room for a storyline. It is evidently clear that this was not a long-term plan for the company. That's the issue in AEW. The reason why people aren't invested is because AEW isn't even invested in themselves. I don't care how much money they have. I don't care about their ratings. I don't care about their low attendance. I don't care about them getting... I don't care about any of that. What I care about is the TV show that I'm watching. I don't think it's a coincidence at all that a lot of AEW's numbers have gone down at a time where I feel like the product has become more stale. Brian Alvarez talking about AEW booking for the sickos. The sickos are the fucking problem. The sickos don't answer for everybody else. The sickos they shouldn't be the ones you're booking for. But I said this a long time ago. I swear to God, I want to find that clip. I will look for it. I will show it on my stream tomorrow. There's a clip that I have from 2020, maybe 2021. And I literally said on that tweet, I'm like, man, if you completely go towards the hardcore audience, eventually they'll find a way to turn on you. And my God, did it happen to AEW? It did happen to AEW. Because part of their hardcore audience eventually left when Cody left. Part of them left a little bit when CM Punk left. Humble85 says in the chat, AEW got their money from WBD, so there is no need for change. That's the problem. That was the problem with WWE and Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon, everybody remembers this. Vince McMahon was literally Vince McMahon was literally in a situation where he was getting the massive TV deal with Fox and USA. NXT got moved to TV. They were getting paid money. And Vince really started to suck. Vince really started to become problematic. Because they got comfortable. They got complacent. AEW wasn't comfortable or complacent in the first 3 years. That fire, that passion that they had in terms of competing with NXT and WWE, man, it led to some great, great television. And now they got this massive TV deal, and I'm proud of them. I'm happy for them. That to me excites me. I think that is a fantastic thing. The reality is, though, AEW has gotten to a point as a company where I genuinely believe they are very complacent in what they're doing, and Tony Khan doesn't really seek change. The reason why I've come to that conclusion is because a lot of the things that JD mentions are a lot of things that I mention, or a lot of things that other podcasters mention, or other personalities mention. They're actually pretty common, right? When people say AEW shuffles talent in and out without explanation, that's a really common thing that people have been saying for years. Or start and stop storylines. It's a very common thing people have been saying for years. And you don't see change on that aspect. So I don't know why we have gotten to a point within AEW where like certain things change. I'm not here to tell Tony Khan how to run a better business, right? I can't really do that. I can't tell Tony Khan how to run a better business because at the end of the day, I don't run a wrestling promotion. But I could tell Tony Khan from a fan's perspective that does make a living talking about wrestling. I could say, hey, change needs to happen. That's it. It's as simple as that. Change needs to happen. I said it years and years and years ago. Even when everybody was being super positive towards AEW, I said, guys, things need to change. It's going to be a trickle-down effect. It's going to happen. It's going to hurt the company. And it has. I've literally predicted AEW correctly the entire time since its existence. So the good thing is AEW got their money from WBD, but there's so much more money they could be making from sponsorships and partnerships and advertising and licensing, and there's a lot of things that they could be doing. But guess how much money they can make? Guess how much money they can make when they have a better product? They don't scream cool. That's the truth. They just simply don't scream cool. And JD's tweet was very valid, bro. Orange Cassidy floating around. He's part of the conglomeration stuff or what? What is he dealing with on TV? What's he part of? You know, the best friends broke up, then it's on to the next thing, then it's on to the next thing, it's on to the next thing. I don't know. Now they got this whole thing where they're going with Daniel Garcia. Daniel Garcia moves on from MJF. Now he's Team AEW. I don't know. Isn't it kind of weird? Isn't it kind of weird how, like, they're just shifting from storyline to storyline? By the way, the only reason why they're doing this Jon Moxley storyline is because the Elite storyline sucked ass. What has happened with that, bro? They beat the living shit out of Tony Khan, and then now they basically dropped it. They did a couple things, and they basically dropped it. No consistency, my friends. No fucking consistency. Nicholas Little says, I can understand some of the criticism and some of it is deserved, but the problem I think some of the AEW hardcore audience fans have is people with Eric Bischoff and Jim Cornette. Yeah. But Jim Cornette and Eric Bischoff don't speak for me. And nothing against them, but I don't watch their content. AEW fan base loves to take somebody's opinion and utilize that opinion and say, look, well, this is how everybody else feels. And that's not true. But go back to looking at the Elite taking over the company. Elite taking over the company led to what? What did it lead it to? What did it lead to? Nothing. This Jon Moxley stuff, what is it leading to? We can sit here and speculate all days, guys. It doesn't really matter what it leads to. I don't think AEW even knows what they're leading to. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I'm going to grab a water. We're going to talk about some other stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back. All right, we are back. I just saw an interesting comment in the chat I want to address really quick. Kenny has a ready-made feud with the Elite upon return. Why aren't they building up to that if that was true? Because he does. He very well does. But why aren't they building up to that? Like WWE built up to the Roman Reigns return. They took out Paul Heyman. The Bloodline took out Paul Heyman. They took out Jimmy. They took out Cody. They laid destruction. WWE built up Roman's return. It led to something massive. Why couldn't AEW do the same thing? See what I mean? It's just problematic. That's very problematic. Let's talk a little bit about Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. I want to talk about it. Scott D'Amore launched Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. 2 nights sold out back-to-back in Windsor, Canada. And very, very good job. Very, very good job by Scott D'Amore. Production was very good. Production was very, very good for Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. The matches were very, very good for Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling.
Rick Corral super chatted $5. What's your take on people saying TK should miss Eads off TV?
We'll continue talking about MLPW in just a second. Rick Corral says, what's your take on people saying TK should take Mercedes off TV? TK's got to find a way to make Mercedes feel like must-see TV. Mercedes is a hell of a talent. She's one of my favorites in the business. Heel or babyface, she doesn't have the aura in AEW. She doesn't come across as the top star. She's not presented as such. I feel like AEW needs to really figure it out. There's no reason why Mercedes should not feel like the top act in the company. But again, it's structural. AEW has foundational issues. They have very big foundational issues. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, that foundational issues. The structural way of AEW doing things. Like, yeah. Mercedes doesn't come across as a top star. She should be. But I've been saying for years, AEW doesn't know how to capitalize off this stuff. They don't. They don't know how to capitalize off the big signings. They arrive, they're there, and that's it. And it's a shame. It's a real big shame. Thank you, Rick, for the $5 super chat. Appreciate you. Guys, if anybody else wants to drop a super chat, it guarantees that your questions or comments get read on the stream. Back to MLPW. Production was good. The show was good. I'm not going to spoil any of the matches and stuff like that, because you guys can still watch it on Triller TV. I decided not to do a live review this past weekend. I was doing some other stuff, obviously, that was a little bit more important. But I'm glad to see that MLPW exists. I also like the idea of AEW and MLPW play nice with each other. Scott D'Amore had Mauro Ranallo do a card rundown for AEW, which I thought was really cool. They also did the same thing for TNA, promoting Bound for Glory. So, you know, for me personally, I thought that was really cool. MLPW, I'm not shocked. Scott D'Amore is also a very good guy. He cares about the health of the wrestling industry. He's got Konosuke Takeshita and Josh Alexander on his card. You know, promoting both events is a great thing. I don't know what will be the long-term future for MLPW. I don't know what their next event is, but I liked what I saw from MLPW. If you guys didn't watch, I highly, highly recommend that you guys watch Athena versus Giselle Shaw, because that was a very good match. And it reminded me that Tony Khan is an absolute idiot for not putting Athena on television, having a massive feud with Mercedes on TV. Because that could main event a pay-per-view, by the way. But I loved it. I loved MLPW. What I also liked was, without spoiling everything, Ricochet did come out in MLPW to further a storyline in AEW. So what I want to say is this: for AEW, it's important that they, follow up with that, right? Something happened in MLPW to further a storyline that's happening in AEW. I should see a reference to that on AEW television. That should be referenced on television on Wednesday Night Dynamite. %100%. Athena not being featured on AEW television is ridiculous. I mean, it really is, bro. It really is. You have such a top talent. And we knew she was good in WWE, but she was not booked well in WWE. And the cool thing is, what she's doing in ROH is great, but ROH is not even on TV, man. And I can't really imagine wanting, like, ROH. Like, I can't imagine too many people are watching ROH these days. How many people have Honor Club, or whatever they call it now? 20,000 people? If you really like Athena, why are you shitting on her ROH run? No, I really like Athena because of her ROH run. She should be main eventing AEW pay-per-views with the top AEW women, because that's how good she is. It does make a lot of sense. That's the fucking problem with this company. Visibility fucking matters. There's a reason why people aren't buying tickets to these shows. There's a reason why people are not watching. There's a reason why NXT 3 weeks in a row is beating the hell out of AEW. It's because WWE is constantly keeping people invested in its storylines. Good or bad, people are invested in the WWE product. AEW used to be so fucking hot to the point, yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. No, that's the problem. Nothing in ROH should ever take precedence over fucking AEW. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to say this, but there is not one thing in ROH that should take any priority over AEW. None of it. None of it. None of the stuff that is happening in ROH should ever be a priority over AEW when AEW is not even perfected. When AEW is struggling, there is no reason why ROH, with less visibility, should ever be considered a big deal. I'm sorry. It's just not how it works, man. It's just not how it works. If you're the WWE, you don't put CM Punk and Drew McIntyre on NXT. You just don't. You just simply don't do it. You simply do it on your flagship show. Why am I stressing Athena being champion? My God, dude. I don't think you understand what's happening here. Athena should be the fucking world champion in AEW. She should be on Dynamite. You have her carrying that ROH belt for what reason? I'm sorry, man. I'm telling you guys right now, I think a lot of people are willing to excuse bad television and like that's cool and shit. There's a reason why. There's a reason why people ain't buying tickets. There's a reason why people ain't showing up. There's a reason why people ain't fucking talking about AEW in a positive light. And it's not because we're paid by WWE. It's not because we're fucking biased. It's not because of any other reason than they just flat out fucking suck today, okay? That's the truth. The reality is the show is fucking garbage. I'm sorry to say this, that's the absolute truth. You can't get invested into anything. You speak your fucking mind. You tell people that you can't get invested in it, and they want to tell you to go watch Google search something from fucking 10 years ago for it to make sense for you. Come on, man. Come on. Come on. We are literally at a stage where this company has the arguably even a better roster than WWE in terms of skill. All right, they got a fucking great roster. They got a great ass roster, man. They got a great ass roster, and what they're putting out is lazy. And the cool thing is, people, I hope the sickos, listen, I hope the sickos defend it through and through. I hope everybody defends it. I hope everybody loves it. I hope everybody enjoys it. If you guys are into the bad television, like that's cool. I'm glad. It ain't gonna stop me from speaking how I feel about it, because guess what? When I was praising AEW initially for years and years and years, all people said was that I got that money from Tony Khan. People thought, and people didn't realize how bad I genuinely thought WWE was in comparison. That's the funniest shit. I live that shit every fucking day because it's my job. And I remember that shit greatly. I remember people telling me all the time, they're like, you're on AEW payroll. You hate WWE. You hate WWE. No, I'm just not willing to defend bad shit. And I'm sorry to tell you guys this, but the truth is, when WWE and AEW and TNA and everybody fucking sucks, I'm going to say they suck. And when I think they're really, 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 really good, I'm going to say they're really, 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 really good. It's just as simple as that. Simple as that, dude. That's how easy it is. AEW is terrible. It is absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. I'm not going to hide it. It is terrible. This is not supposed to be an AEW bash live stream at all. But it's terrible. And if you guys are willing to defend it, that's cool. I'm glad you like it. I'm not going to tell you you're stupid. I'm not going to tell you that you're an idiot. I'm not going to tell you anything's wrong with you. I just ask that you don't insult me for thinking that it's terrible. Because when I say it's terrible, I get insulted for it. When I say I don't like something in pro wrestling, I get insulted for it. Fuck all that shit. There is a lot of good things happening in pro wrestling. I want AEW to succeed. I want them to be incredibly successful. I want to see them do great things. I predicted their TV deals. I predicted everything correctly because I understand the business. I really do understand the business. And I said that you could make a lot of money even with shitty content, but you could be even far more successful if your content is really, 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 really good. And I can assure you guys that AEW, if they were bringing on their A game, they would have got more than 180 something million per year. 1,000,000%. I do genuinely believe that. $1,000,000,000,000%. How good was Wrestle Dream? And then tell me how good the Dynamite was after. Tell me that. Yeah. I don't know, man. Nah, Dean Ambrose is never going back to WWE. He's an AEW lifer. The AEW audience even turned on MJF, so I don't even want to hear about the MJF shit because their own hardcore sickos turn on him too. It is what it is, man. It is what it is. But all right, guys, we'll be back tomorrow. We're gonna talk about Raw. We got Raw tomorrow. We got Raw tomorrow. Tonight, I mean, Raw. We got Raw tonight, so we'll talk about Raw tomorrow. And tomorrow we got NXT. And we got Dynamite. We're gonna have a lot of stuff to review. I like doing a little bit more of these laid back chats. So, Raw, don't forget it's 2 hours. So, should be fun. Ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all for watching. And I'll see you next time.